So the first snowman of the year is done. There he is. I'm so happy. I cannot tell you. The snowflakes are so massive. I don't know where to look at it, in the camera, snowman, or myself. Hey friends, it's Becky here and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a new video. I hope you enjoyed the little intro I decided to use here, because I must say that originally for that footage I had a little bit different plans. I really wanted to make a video about our Slovak traditions we have over the Christmas, same as I did with my Halloween video, because I know through my analytics that most of my audience is from US, UK and also Australia, and then Slovakia is on the 4th place. So I thought it might be interesting for you, but then I mean Christmas got into way itself and I just did not have time for it, but I did not want to waste that footage, so I decided to use it here. So I hope you did enjoy it, and now I would like to get to another part of this video, which would be my December wrap-up. I must say I had a wonderful reading month in December and actually very interesting. I managed to read over, well, was it like over 5 books, which is great number for me, because that's a lot, really. Usually I read this within like 2 months or something, but now I did this in 1 month. And also I have 2 books which I DNF'd this month, which actually did not happen over the year. I don't think I ever DNF'd 2 books in 1 month. I don't actually recall a single book which I would DNF this year, but I DNF'd 2 books this month. So without further ado, I will just start. The first book I finished in December is called The Empire of the Vampire, and oh my goodness, that's amazing. I mentioned this book a couple times before, but very briefly. I never done a proper wrap-up, but it's a fantasy book by J. Christoph. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but it's amazing. And you know, I'm not very much into fantasy, but I think that through this book I'm slowly making my way there, because I just love it. I had it as audiobook, and I also would like to say that if there is anyone who likes audiobooks and you have not read this book, try to read it as audiobook, because the narrator was absolutely amazing. The way he was using his voice and doing different voices and accents, brilliant performance. So highly recommend you to try it as audiobook as well. And this book is basically about Gabriel de Leon, who is a silver saint. He is actually the last of silver saints. Silver saints are the brotherhood who promise to protect people against the creatures of the night, so vampires. And at the beginning of the story we meet Gabriel de Leon in the prison, where he is captured by one of the vampires, and basically there he tells him his whole life story, and through that we get to know about his life, about his adventures, how he became one of the silver saint and how he became the last one, also about his friends and people he met, all the adventures and all the wars he been to, and also the amazing love story, which was forbidden, but it was amazing. Also, I love the way how the book was written, because that's also something to be aware of actually, because there are 2 time periods changing, which I know that not many people actually enjoy, but I love it. The first time period is in the prison, when we meet in the current time Gabriel, who is telling his life story, and the life story he is saying is is in flashbacks. So that's another timeline we go through, and these time periods are constantly changing. And there are also two different narrators, which I absolutely love. The first one is in a third person, so when the Gabriel is in the prison with the vampire, there is a narrator who speaks about everything in the third person. And then when there are actual flashbacks, so Gabriel is telling his life, it's from his perspective, so first person talking. Hope it makes sense. Also, a trigger warnings, there is a lot of blood, a lot of very vivid descriptions of violence and war scenes. I mean, it was amazingly written, but if you do not like to read about these things very much, maybe this book is not for you, because there is quite a lot of it, and also quite a lot of swearing, but I must say that it was quite funny, to be honest. But it's something just to be aware of. But other than that, I gave this book 5 stars. As I said, it's really brilliant. I love the whole world building, I love the characters, I think they were developed very well, and Gabriel de Leon also became one of my favorite characters, I think. As I said, I do not read much of a fantasy, so maybe that's why I was a little biased and I kinda refused to pay attention to little details, which would maybe normally prevent me for giving 5 stars, because when I was watching other booktubers doing review of this book, there were some things which I realized, like, okay, maybe this is a little weird, but still I gave it 5 stars because I just really love it, and it was amazing experience for me. So highly recommend you to give it a go and try this book if you haven't yet. The second book I finished in December is called The Queens of Animation by Natalia Holt. This was another 5-star read for me, and again I had it as audiobook, and again I would love to encourage you to try it as audiobook as well, because the narrator was absolutely amazing. It's a book which tells a story of the first women who work as animators in Walt Disney Studios since its beginning, and I mean, it's a hell of a story. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's absolutely amazing. You know, I really do like filmmaking, and I'm always interested in different types of filmmaking and different process, and animation is something I never personally tried to do, but I just love Disney movies. I mean, who doesn't? This book describes how these women actually got to be the animators in the Walt Disney Studios, this whole journey, also everything they had to go through and how it affected their personal life and also mental well-being, because being the only woman in such a male-dominated industry, especially in those times when there was no such thing like women animators, and everything they had to go through and they had to deal with, such as, you know, different kind of harassment and jokes and pranks literally on the workplace, and being not credited on the screen for doing basically major work, and also doing the same job and sometimes even more of it and better. I mean, I'm sorry, but even better, but being paid much less than men colleagues. I mean, that made me so angry. I mean, during this book there were just so many times when I got really angry about the whole society and how it worked, because I mean, even in these days, I mean, I don't want to get into this whole discussion about women in film industry, because I mean, I could speak about this a little bit, but I don't want to do it now. But still, even in these days, it's very difficult for women to do this kind of jobs. But in that time, I mean, it was just very fascinating read. And I would also say that this book is kind of giving you information on 3 different levels. The first would be these women themselves and also their personal lives and how it was affected by working in Walt Disney Studios. Then the second level would be the whole society, so how in those times was it for women to work in this sort of creative industry, and how the whole society was looking at them and how it was affected by the society standards. And then another level would be the Walt Disney Studios themselves, so from its whole creation and the beginning, and also how it went through the World War II, and for example how the Disneyland was created, and also following the different process and techniques and the machines they were using for animations, and how this whole animation process developed. So it's very interesting if you are interested just a little bit in the film industry and animation and Disney movies and women in film industry and creative industry. It's just absolutely brilliant book, and I would highly recommend you to give it a try, because I gave it 5 stars and absolutely love it, as you can see. Another book I finished in December is called The Adventure of Christmas Pudding, and it's my first Agatha Christie, which I finally finished, and I'm very happy from it, because if you remember, there was one more Agatha Christie book I was reading this year, but I did not DNF it, but I just set it aside for a while because it was actually set in ancient Egypt, and it's not that I didn't like the book, but there were just different things as I expected from Agatha Christie, because I think that traditionally I wanted to read something with Hercule Poirot, and this book was very different, so I decided to set set it aside, but now finally I found the perfect book for myself, and it was a book of short stories. The first one is very Christmassy, so perfect for this time period, and it's about Hercule Poirot going to English countryside to experience the true proper traditional Christmas, but obviously something will happen there, and I'm not gonna tell you what, but it was very lovely read. There are several short stories in this book, and I must say that reading this was very strangely comforting for me, and I really enjoyed it, although there was like murders and dead bodies found in the wooden chests, but I just still enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend that if you maybe like myself never read anything from Agatha Christie. I think this was a good way for me to start, because it kind of gives you a little introduction about the way how Hercule Poirot works if you don't know it from, for example, TV series, and for me it was a lovely experience, so I finished my first Agatha Christie in December. Okie doke, moving on to another book which I read right after I opened it underneath the Christmas tree, and it's this one which I got from my sister. I mentioned to you Sarah's Scribbles once before because I already own these two books, which are absolutely amazing, and maybe some of you know that Sarah Anderson, who is the author of these comic books, she released a new book a couple weeks ago. It's the Yellow Book, and I really wanted to get that one, but it's not translated to Slovak yet, and although I don't mind reading in English, as you know, but since I have these two previous books in Slovak, I just wanted to have the collection in one language. So we could not get the yellow one, but as we were trying to find it, we also realized with my sister that there is this one book which I was missing from my collection, and my sister gave it to me for Christmas. So if you do not know Sarah Anderson, she is an artist who started to do little comics on Instagram, and now she has several books published out of it, and it's amazing. This is the main character, and she is slowly becoming an adult, and this comic book is basically everything about her and how she is becoming an adult and all the struggles she needs to go through also as an introvert. So very lovely illustrations which I absolutely love, and this just makes me laugh so much every single time. So this another book I finished in December. Moving on to the fourth book I finished in December quite unexpectedly, actually, because it's a book me and my sister gave to our mom for Christmas, and it's this one, Príbehy pre potešenie duše by Bruno Ferrero. I showed you the first book from this series, maybe you can say, in my previous videos already a couple months ago, and it's a wonderful read. This book is also illustrated by Lenka Jaworska, who is a Slovak illustrator, and I love these illustrations. Let me show you some of them. It's absolutely beautiful book filled with short stories. For example, illustrations like this, and then this. I mean, I love it very much. It's absolutely stunning. And I would say this is the type of the book which is for both children and adult, and the best combination would be for parents to read this before the bed to their children, because these short stories, well, it's not technically like Bible stories, but the Bruno Ferrero is actually a priest and also a writer, and he writes these books of short stories which always gives you some sort of advice or how maybe people should behave towards each other to be nice and kind, and it's just really beautiful. It does not talk about biblical stories which you find in the Bible, but these are really short stories from your everyday situations and everyday life. So for example, relationship within parents and children, then in the marriage, and also other forms of relationship, and it's just very beautiful. And this book is written in a way that you have always let me find something. That you have little short story on one page, and then you have this little, it's sort of like devotion, maybe you can say, so a little bit of a commentary from the author to the actual story, so what you read about, also how it applies to everyday life, and it's very beautiful. You can read this within a day or two as I did, and it's just very beautiful, and especially for those illustrations, I really love it. Okay, so slowly moving to another book, which I'm still currently reading actually. I have 2 more chapters to go, but I had to pre-record this video, so I decided to give you a little commentary on this book already. It's actually a buddy read I'm doing with Gemma from Gem of Books, and it's this one called The Winter Sea by Susanna Kersley. I mentioned this book once before, and still I really do enjoy it. I still have 2 more chapters to go, as I said, so I'm hoping that the ending would be very surprising and absolutely amazing, but I think that so far it's 3.5, maybe 4-star read for me. I'm not quite sure yet. I will let you know once I finish it completely. But this is a book which again follows two different timelines and two different storylines, which is something I really enjoy. The first time period is set in present time in Scotland, and our main character Kerry is a writer of historical novels, and right now she is writing about one person who used to live in Scotland near Aberdeen several hundred years before, and that's the second storyline actually, because the second storyline is what she is writing about, so we actually read her novel as she is writing it. So it's very interesting format. I never read a book like this before, and I'm really excited to see what's gonna happen here, because it's a story about war, it's a story about love and romance and also some adventure, but in the same time I must say I think I expected it to be more about historical facts and historical details more, but now it turned to be really about following two different romances, which I don't mind. I must say it's quite nice, but I think I was expecting something a little different from this book, but still, as I said, I enjoyed it a lot. I always want to pick it up and read and discover what's gonna happen, but there are some moments which really made me cringe, because I really hate when there is bad dialogue in books and in movies. That's something really off-putting, and in general I would say that there were several scenes and moments which were really predictable in this book, but still I was like, okay, I can deal with this. But then there were also some cliche stuff which I just could not get over, you know, like two people meet already at the airport and then they find out that they have similar journey, but I'm like, they really did not have to meet already at the airport and be like, oh my gosh, we have the same journey. Yeah. And then another scene which were on the beach, and there were again two people, and one of them says that, oh, you know, my sister told me about this stone which can protect you, but it needs to have this specific shape, but I was never able to find it. And suddenly the second person looks down and finds that specific shape of the stone in the sea, and I'm like, what an accident. You know, so not the greatest parts of this book, but still overall I like the format, I like the idea of the book, I do like the characters, and I really enjoy the whole setting in the Scotland. I really love it, as you know, and also different time periods changing. So far I recommend you to give this a go, because I also heard great reviews. I personally really like it, but I think it might be 4-star read for me, unless those last two chapters would be really surprising and amazing. Then it could maybe be 4.5 stars, but I'll see, I'll let you know. So those were all the books which I read in December, and now I'm sure you are curious about those two books I DNF'd. Well, unfortunately the first one was Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte, and I was really excited about this book because I never read anything from Anne Bronte, but it just was not my cup of tea. It's a story of Agnes, who was growing up in a family which was very lovely. They have lovely relationship between parents and sisters, but she wanted to do something more with her life and she wanted to become a governess. So her mother helped her to get into one of the families where she could kind of babysit their children, but the children proved to be a real evil, especially the little boy who was really enjoying himself when he could torture different animals and cause the pain to everyone around him. So it just really wasn't the nice experience for Agnes, and she decided to leave from this family at some point, but she was still hopeful that other families could be better and she could still find her place as a governess and be happy. I had it as audiobook and I have maybe like 2 hours left, but I just could not listen to it anymore because there was just nothing happening in the story. And at the beginning I kind of enjoyed this. I felt like it's very cozy and slow read and something I could just relax with, maybe go for a walk with, but at the end I just realized that there is literally nothing happening, and maybe there would be some big thing happening at the end, but I just did not have a patience to get to the ending. And also when it comes to audiobook, I must say that it wasn't the greatest experience for me, because at some points the narrator would be speaking like very quietly, almost I would have to have the volume on the top, and then suddenly when she would be doing man voice, for example, it would be so loud that whenever I would be walking I would just jump because it was just way too loud. So I decided to DNF this book. Please let me know if anyone else read the Agnes Grey and if you enjoyed it, because yeah, I'm always interested if you read some book which I did not enjoy and maybe you enjoyed it, or if you had a similar experience, so please let me know. And the second book which I DNF, which I was very sad about, is actually The Man Called Owe by Frederick Beckman, which was massive disappointment for me this year because I read Anxious People by Frederick Beckman and I absolutely love it, and I hope that he could be one of my favorite authors as well. So I tried to pick up another book from him, but unfortunately The Man Called Owe was a huge disappointment for me because I just could not deal with the grumpy man. I'm so sorry. I know that many people love this book, and I'm sure that there would be some shift in the story which would actually make me love the person. but I just could not get there. And when I was reading in December, I was like, I really don't want to feel as I felt when I was reading the book. Also, I felt like the story was really predictable from the very beginning, and then some scenes happened to be what I thought they would be. So after the half of the book, I just decided to put it down because yeah. So let me know about the man called Owe as well, because then when I was doing little research and I read other reviews on the book, I know it's became a little bit of like love or hate relationship with this book, that there were people who absolutely adored the book and then people who absolutely hated the book. So I think I'm more going to the second category, unfortunately, but I just love to know your opinion. So that's it, my December wrap-up. I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know about your favorite book of December, and also if there is any book which you DNF'd maybe during this year, because we are actually at the end of the year. And one more thing I would like to say, since I'm planning to release this video on the 1st of January, which is actually the first day of the new year, I would like to use this opportunity and just say massive thank you to everyone who is here, who is watching, to my subscribers and also to fellow booktubers, because being here on this community really made my last year much better since I joined this community in March last year, and I'm just so grateful for you to be here. And I just would love to wish you a wonderful year in 2022. I hope you will have the great year and hope to see you here much often. I'm actually going to little adventure myself this year because as I mentioned a couple times before, I really wanted to come back to Scotland for some time, and I am moving there in couple days, couple weeks, well, less than a week. So this might be my kind of like last video I'm currently recording at the moment, and from now I'm going to pre-record some videos, so those which you will see coming after this one will be pre-recorded. Hopefully I will have time to do it, but just wanted to let you know that just in a case there would be a little inconsistency on my side, that's why, because I'm moving my life somewhere else, because yeah. So just wanted to say this, wanted to say massive thank you, and Ďakujem who is here, who is watching, writing comments, and yeah, and I'm very grateful for all my booktube friends I met this year, well, last year already as well, because it's a real gift. So without further ado, I will just say bye, take care, wish you a wonderful year, and I will see you with another video very soon, because I'm doing my best to pre-record them, and then once I record another new videos, those will be from the new environment and my new home, hopefully. So see you soon and take care. Bye.